Maxhabero Tafshin Chaf Aleph, and we were speaking about that Yipter Adam Maxhabero down here, that a person leaving his friend down here is a result of the Yipter Adam Maxhabero above, that there's the spiritual Adam and Chavere, which is Hashem and the Yidden, that are separated, and this begins with the Tzimtzum Harishon. And if you want to have Zechareyu, if you want to have the reconnect, if you want to have the bond beyond that, so that is accomplished through Dvar Halacha. We said, what's the idea of Dvar Halacha? Specifically, Halacha is the Ratzon HaElyon, the level of Hashem's will of above that's higher than, say, the Ishtalshlus, and that brings down that despite the Tzimtzum, there should be the Hamshacha and the Aliyah in a higher way than before. Now, in that very same Maimer Chazal, where it says, Ayipater Adam Chaveroi, Elametoch Dvar Halacha, it speaks about Adchartan Milsa, that I remembered something, that one person reminded the other, they remembered something about a land that Adam Rishon decreed about it, that it should be settled, will be settled, and a land that Adam Rishon decreed upon it, that it shouldn't be settled, will not be settled. And the Maimer wanted to know what's the connection between these two topics, the idea of Al Yipater Adam Mechaveroi and this idea about the settling of the land. So even though we learned a little bit into this page, let's begin from the beginning of the Ois Ches, line 1, page 13, Yud Zayin. Messiahim, and the Maimer Chazal that speaks about Al Yipater Adam Mechaveroi El Matech Dvar Halacha concludes, Kol Eretz Shegazer Allah Adam Rishon, any land that Adam Rishon decreed about it, Liyishuv, that should be settled, Nisyashva, it was settled. Kol Eretz Shegazer Allah Adam Rishon Liyishuv Lo Nisyashva, and any land that Adam Rishon did not decree about it that it should be settled was not settled. The idea behind this is, like it's explained in the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, that this Maimer that Rebbe is based on, Adam Harishon, parts of Adam Kadmon. Adam Harishon, the first Adam, is referring to the first Adam of Seder Ishtalshlus. We know even, let's say, in Bia, there is the Atzilus is called Adam HaElyon, and so on. So there's the level of Adam Harishon, the first level of Adam Seder Ishtalshlus, that is Adam Kadmon. That is the first level after the Tzimtzum. And he's saying, Ugzeiris Adam Harishon, what does it mean, the decree of Adam Harishon? Who Machshava Hagduma, the Adam Kadmon, otherwise known as Machshava Hagduma the Ak. We Chassidus a lot of times brings down that everything that will happen throughout Seder Ishtalshlus was decided and seen and perceived in the early machshava, in the first machshava of Adam Kadmon. This means the chol ma'aseh b'nei Adam minyaneim, all the actions of people and their matters, heim al pi hagzeira d'hashgacha elyoina. These are according to the decree of the divine, of the providence of above. K'fi she'ala machshava hagduma the Adam Kadmon, the way it arose in the early thought of Ak. That is what it means, that it has to be the Gzeira of Adam Harishon. Adam Harishon is going, Ak is the one that decrees and decides what's going to be throughout history, what's going to be throughout Seder Ishtalshlus. Now we're going to go to the detailed expression of Eretz Shegazer Aleh Lisyashiv, or Eretz Shenigzer Aleh Shaloi Lisyashiv. So he says in line 10, V'protis yoiser, and more specifically, yesh b'zeh fanim, there are two ways and two types of things. Eretz shegazer Allah Adam Rishon yishuv nisyashva, a land that Adam Rishon decreed upon it, that it will be settled, that was settled. The Eretz shaloi gazer Allah Adam Rishon yishuv lo nisyashva, a land that Adam Rishon did not decree upon it to be settled, was not settled. It's referring to two approaches of the service of Hashem. There is avoida in the positive, in the side of good, through the fulfillment of the mitzvah of the positive commandment. So that is something that a lekus is settled. That is a place that godliness settles in. That's where Hashem wanted to be. And then there's the opposite of that, line 15. Avoida in the side of the negative, in the opposite side, through observing and guarding the negative commandments. That is a place that's loyness yashva. That's a place where the divine energy does not come into it. It does not permeate that level. In general, these are the two ideas of turning away from bad and doing good, like the pasuk says. So here he's saying that what is the decree referring to? The fact that every person has the avoid of surmara, seitov, mitzvahs asim, mitzvahs loisas. This is all decreed according to the Gzeira Halyoina, that this is what he should do, this is what he should not do. And then there is, as he's going to go on to say, the opportunities, just like in the simple sense about being settled. Some people come to a place and some people don't come to a place. It's about settling the land. This is connected with the mitzvahs asim, mitzvahs loisas. The fact that I need to fulfill mitzvahs in a certain place, that is why I have settled that land. Line 19, the Mamshach B'Maim, and the Maim the Frierdiker Rebbe continues. By Shakos, like it says, Mashem Mitzadi Gever Kenanu, from Hashem, a person's steps were prepared, V'darka Yechpatz, and his way was desired. So he's going to explain an interesting thing about Hashem Tzaddik Gever Kenanu, what we always speak about Hashem Tov. And then he's going to give an interesting twist on V'darka Yechpatz. So let's see the brackets, line 21. The Kiyadua Teres Baal Shem Tov, like you said, Merazok and Allah Pasuk, like it's known, the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov and Al Tereb on this Pasuk. When a Yid comes to a particular specific place, all of Ladas, he needs to know that the providence of above brought him to this place. That the idea is, what does it mean, darka yechpatz? His way, he will desire. The reason why Hashem prepared my footsteps to arrive at this and this location, at this and this city, at this and this place, is because the person needs to search out. He needs to desire, he needs to find Hashem's way. Where is it in this location that I can find Hashem? That's what it means, darka yechpatz. He has to desire Hashem's way. That's why he was prepared, his footsteps to reach over here, so he should prepare Hashem's way. Then there's another explanation, he says, koilol gama pirush, including also an additional explanation. Shedarka yechpatz koyal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Who does the desiring? In the initial thing is, he has to desire and want to find the purpose of his being there, to be able to accomplish what he's supposed to accomplish in this particular location. The other way of explaining is that Yechpatz is going on Hashem, that Hashem desires a Yid to come in a certain place, because the Yid has to fulfill that particular mission that Hashem desires for him to put in that place, do in that place. And then he goes on to say in line 27, Latzliach leish v'ish ba'avodasa b'torah mitzvahs. Why does Hashem prepare for a person his steps where he has to go? To help the person, to make him successful, both in his avodah, in Torah mitzvahs, by going to the place and following the area where Hashem is designating him for him to go. So that makes him successful in Zavoid and Torah mitzvahs. And B'chol Inyan of Agashmim. The Eibishter gives him success in all of his physical matters as well, by being in this particular place, not in a different place. All of this is that he should fulfill the intention of above. That should be that the Torah should be a light, that the Torah mitzvahs a person does will be a light. But in the light that's good, like it says right away in the creation, Hashem saw the light and it was good. So now he reconnects it with what we spoke about before about Yipter Adam Maxhaveru. It says in line 30, to be able to explain the connection of the topics. In this Maimer Chazal, so it should be able to be that he should remember him. We said remembering is that bond that there is, because the neshama separated and came down here into the physical world. So externally there seems to be a level of yipater, there seems to be a separation, and you want to have the level of zichroinos that we spoke about, the different psuki zichroinos, the zikaron of the bris of Noach, Avram, and Moshe. So he says, loy maspik, it's insufficient, top of page Yud Ches. Limudvar halacha, just studying the matter of halacha, lemoitzieihem b'peh, that to those, it says that Torah is a life for those that are moitzaeihem. So the Chazal say lemoitzieihem b'peh. Don't read it moitzaeihem to those that find it, but to those that express it, bring it out verbally. So it's not just enough that it says that that the matter of halacha, the words of halacha, the study of the halacha is what causes the zechrehu. That's insufficient. In addition to drawing down from thought to speech, this has to be drawn down also in actual avodah l'kayim gzeiras adam arishon b'chol eretz l'fi inyana liyishuv v'shaloi liyishuv, to fulfill the decree of adam arishon in every land according to its particular matter, to settle it or not to settle it. In other words, I need to actually do the mitzvahs atzah and actually do the mitzvahs loisa. That's the connection between the two ideas of Yipter Adam Chaveir El Matech Dvar Allah, and then going into Yishuv Aloynis Yashva, because the true Zechreu, the true bond, the true inseparableness that happens between the Yidden and the Eibishter happens through the mitzvahs asim, mitzvahs loises, eres shegazer al adam adishon lisyashiv versus eres shegazer al adam adishon not to be misyashiv. Going back to the theme that he said before, that this has to do with zichroinus that we say on Musaf and Rosh Hashanah. So he's saying now in the parentheses that even the zichroinus of Rosh Hashanah, we know it's insufficient just to say it in speech. So he says in line 5 in the parentheses, Rosh Hashanah, just like in Rosh Hashanah, Shaloi Maspik Amiras Psukim Zichroinus, it's insufficient to just say the Psukim of Zichroinus in Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, that we say the 10 Psukim of Zichroinus. El Tzarich Gam Inyan HaMaisa, we also need action. Shezeu Oimrei B'ameh B'Shoifar, that's what he says, through what? With Shoifar. The Chazal say that that Imru Lafonai, that Hashem says to the Yidden, say before me Psukim Malchios and Psukim Zichroinus. Malchus, I should be a king over you. Zichroinus, I should remember you for good. Ubameh, and through what? B'Shoifar. Meaning that the blowing of the shofar, the action of the blowing of the shofar, creates the melucha, not just the reciting of the psukim, and creates the zikaron, the bris, the covenant that we spoke about earlier in the Maimer, is necessary, not just the reciting of the psukim, but also the blowing of the shofar. So we see the importance of action as well in the process of the zechreyu, of the bris, of the bond that is being reconnected after the Yipter ad Mechavere Kimavur Baruch V'Amorim Shalifnei. Alex explained at length in the Mamorim prior to this, where he speaks about this topic of bringing, that the Rebbe's Mamorim earlier in that year spoke about. It's not enough to just say the psukim, we need to also have the action of shofar. So now he continues in line 9, test. That's what it means. A person should not take leave of his friend only out of a matter of halacha, because through that he will remember him. Like it's explained at length in the Hemshech of the Rebbe Rashab of Tafresh Samach Vav. Hamashal meben melech. It gives a metaphor from a prince. That the king sends him far away from him. Why does he send him away? Not for any bad reason, but rather for a positive reason. Because through sending the prince away from the royal palace, he reveals what's in the capability of the prince to affect. Therefore, the king, before sending the prince off to a faraway land, gives him initially a particular thing by which the prince should remember him until they will return and they will see each other again. Like the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe also explains. That's the matter of halacha that the Eibishter gave us, that through that he remembers him. Hainu, this means as follows. Is through giving the Yid a matter of halacha, then it's clear. No Jew will be pushed away entirely. He cannot be completely separated. That the Yid will eventually come to a level of remembering the Eibishter until they will return and see each other. This is also the explanation of the exact language. It says that a person should not leave his friend only from a matter of halacha. Why does he say it in a negative, which makes it especially long to express it? He could have said, seemingly he could have said in the shorter version. How should it be Yipter ad Mechavero? How should a person take leave from his friend? Mitoich dvar halacha, out of a matter of halacha. Why did he start in a negative? Don't say. The idea behind this is, and this it's emphasized, if not for the fact that initially the dvar halacha would have been given, that through that he would remember him. There would never have been a situation where the Adam would have left his fellow. In other words, Hashem would have never allowed for any situation of tzimtzum and separation and external separation of a Yid and Hashem, unless he had put into place this particular means to ensure that the bond would never completely sever. Rather, it would have been al Yipter ad Mechavere. It would have been in such a way that he would have never left him. There would never have been a tzimtzum. There would never have been Yeridas Haneshama Lamata. The entire possibility for a descent, that the person will leave his fellow, is only for the sake of the ascent. That's why it says, Al Yipter ad Mechavero el metoch dvar halacha. The simple meaning, Al Yipter, don't leave until you've said a dvar halacha. In the deeper meaning, it says, there wouldn't have been the Yipter ad Mechaveroi. Al Yipter ad Mechaveroi. There wouldn't have been the Yipter ad Mechaveroi, Ella only because it is the Dvar Halacha, because then you're going to reach a higher level than the separation than it was before the separation. That's why he says it in a negative, to tell you about how the entire Yipter ad Mechaveroi was linked to that. Al derech Amar le'ilsiv Gimel, he says in the parentheses, similar to what we learned in the third Eiser Maimer, concerning the intention of the tzimtzum, that why did Hashem make the tzimtzum? It seems to be contrary to a positive thing. You're doing something negative, removing Hashem's light, because Shal Yodai Nasis Avsharis through the tzimtzum became the possibility La Inidi Pater Ad Mechaveroi. Now the tzimtzum caused that there should be the possibility for Adam to be separated from Chaveroi. And why was that? It's for the sake of revelation. Today she is a chreu, so that should be able to be, that Hashem that there should be able to be the remembrance. Calls man shenimtzoim b'shlichus, as long as the person is found on the mission. Like you said, he sent away on a shlichus. He sent away the king sent away the royal prince. And by giving him the Dvar Halacha, he ensures that as long as he's over there on the mission, he's far away, it'll be the Zechreyu. Like we said before, the matter is clear that the Eibishter, that the person will remember, the prince will remember, the Bnei Yisrael will remember. We saw that also earlier in the time. We said it's definite, it's a sure thing. It's not maybe they will return and see each other. They will definitely return each other and see each other. He said earlier in the Maimer, if you remember, Avarta, the Baal Shem Tov says that a place that a person has been there once, he's going to come there again. Therefore, it has to be, it's not just, it's going to be remembered for some time. The point is, it's only temporarily until Yachzor Yisrael, because it has to be that they will see each other again. This is analogous to a prince that was in captivity, and he returns to his father, the king. Then this joy of returning to the king is much greater than even if he would never have left the king. That's how we see, that's the higher level that's reached through the descent, the aliyah that's reached through the Yeridah. This joy breaks through all boundaries. And therefore, because we have this greater joy, we can have a much higher level than the level that we were at before the separation, before the tzimtzum. And therefore, therefore Hashem's very essence can come down, because all boundaries are broken through the joy. Until below 10 handbreadths. That low 10 handbreadths means in our world, that he will have a home down here below, because you have the simcha that broke through all the boundaries that caused that should come down here below without any types of limitations whatsoever. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the Maimer, this was a Maimer that the Rebbe said before the departure of the first charter group that came from for Tishrei. This was in Tafshin Chaf Aleph, Tishrei 1960, that came to the Rebbe, and this was their goodbye mimer. The Rebbe said for them a mimer, taking leave, and this was a charter flight that came from Eretz Yisrael, and the Rebbe made a specific farbrengen. This was totally unusual, especially in the 60s. It was a regular Tuesday. It was a Tuesday, Daled Mar Cheshvan. It wasn't a Shabbos farbrengen. It wasn't anything. The Rebbe made a special farbrengen and said this mimer to take leave of this group, this charter group that came from Eretz Yisrael.